What is going on, everybody? This is Coach Coleman, Jesse Coleman, and you're checking into Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast, where we help you tap into your full potential. I know y'all miss me. We missed a week. It's okay. I was in Atlanta, and it was not hot Atlanta. It was cold Atlanta. It was colder than Chicago down there, raining. But we were down there for our annual convention. Great information. I'm going to do a few episodes based on some of the stuff we talked about at the convention. But we're not going to talk about that today. I'll get into that on a later episode. But today I got a special guest. I'm excited about this young lady. If if I'm not mistaken, I actually met her when I was in Tennessee, and I went down there to teach business planning clinic, and she was in the class, and during lunch we had a conversation because she was on the same journey that I was on as far as being a speaker, being a instructor, and seeing her growth from then to now is one of the most amazing things, right? Like our event in Atlanta, she was, a part of a panel, right? Not just anybody get to do those things. When people get tapped on the shoulder to do these things, that means there's something special about them. That means they're doing something right. So for seeing her from that first conversation of, hey, we're on the same path, this is what I'm thinking about, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm doing, and up until seeing what she's doing right now is so amazing. And that's what I'm glad she's here because that's one of the things we like to talk about a lot. Like if you have dreams, if you have things that you want to accomplish, just do it. And she did that. She was able to just jump right in and just do those things. So I am excited. I'm gonna quit talking. I am gonna bring my guest on the stage. And Rachel, welcome, 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 welcome. How are you?
I'm so good. What a generous lead-in to bringing me on stage. Thank you for all of that. I kept smiling the whole time back here.
I mean, it's one again, like we both teach a lot. We both, do a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure you can say the same thing that is that there's usually some person in the room that you just connect with or, you just align with. And that was how it was that day with us, where we just aligned. Like that was our first time meeting each other. Right. And then we
Yeah.
just clicked. And it's been about 2 years now almost. And, we still rocking and rolling. We're still, we're still locked in.
Yes, I can't believe it's been 2 years. I remember going to that thinking, I need to do business planning clinic. And then the second you said the KWU certification piece of it, and it was still so fresh on my mind at that point that I was like, okay, you have to plan your business, but also that's a part of it. So like, make
Yeah.
sure you talk to him about that. And it was so encouraging to me because, you know, there's just a lot that goes on to make that happen. It feels like a really nearly impossible mountain to climb. But when you have people cheering you on, it's so much easier.
Yeah, and I always tell people all the time, like there's always people that come up to us as instructors during class. It's like, hey, can we exchange numbers? Hey, can I ask you a question? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and I would like, your opinion on this. And yet, not a lot of people actually follow up on those things, right? Yet you were one of the very few that, you followed up that day because some people will be like, hey, can I talk to you during lunch? And we never have a conversation. We talk during lunch. Then after lunch, we end up connecting on social media, and then we touch bases from there. We've hopped on Zooms, we had calls. Like you, you stayed on top of things, and if and that's what I'm gonna jump into that. But I want to go into that of what is your mindset around that? Because again, a lot of people ask questions like, "Hey, can I connect with you? I have some questions," but yet you followed up on that. What is it about that where it's like, "Hey, I am going to follow up. I'm going to do these things."
The following up, the mindset, making sure that I made this happen. I have always wanted to teach and train. So, I mean, just from the time that I was young, I thought that I was going to go into education, like to be a teacher. And it turns out like teaching children is not necessarily something I really wanted to do. In college, I changed my major pretty quickly into, it was called organizational communication, but training and development was the emphasis. And after I graduated college, I mean, that was in December of 2013, the recession was still kind of coming back. There wasn't a lot that was going on. They promised, $40,000 per year jobs, but none of us were getting them. I was an assistant for a little while in a couple of different places, and then I got married and had kids. And I didn't think that it was ever going to happen, that the teaching and training aspect of it you have to be an expert in something if you're going to teach and train on that topic. And so whenever I got into real estate, at that point, it wasn't even on my radar to think about being able to pursue this. And then whenever I joined KW and people kept pointing me in that direction, saying, hey, KW has this ladder of growth into education. You can do this long term through our company and systems. It was a beautiful reality that I did not know I was going to be able to revisit. To be able to say that I did the stay-at-home mom thing, that I grew a business, and now I have the ability to touch back to the thing that I loved and that I love to do was a huge blessing for me. So whenever the opportunity arose and the people kept coming in place, I was like, this is the motivation. This is what I want to do. I have to follow up.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I want people that's listening to not go over that, is that you had a passion and you paid attention to the signs. Like you just said, you were like, things just kept coming up. People started popping up. And too often people have those signs, yet they ignore it. But you was like, okay, there must be something more to this because these things keep popping up. It's like that coincidence thing of, oh, okay, this can't be a coincidence that this keep coming up and this is happening. So it was good that you saw the signs, you acknowledged it, and then you're like, okay, this is the path I need to go down.
Yes. I had read the book, I'm going to butcher it, Who Moved My Cheese? Have you ever read
Oh,
Who Moved My Cheese?
that book, I'm embarrassed to say it. The first time I read that book was it last year? No, the end of 2024, and I needed that book at that exact moment. I read it in one day
Yes.
because
Yes.
where I was currently at in business space, like that book was spot on.
It is so good. We read it before we moved the first time. We bought a house in Smyrna when we first got married. And then whenever it was time for us to move, our realtor actually had told me, you should read this book. And so I read it. And from that point on, I thought, I will not be the person that sits at an empty table with no cheese for the rest of my life, wondering, why is it not here? So anytime I feel like the cheese is moved or I need to go and find whatever it is, I try my best not to wait, because like time is too precious. You can't wait whenever you see the opportunity.
Yeah, and it goes back to the thing of, it's very liberating. It's that freedom of like, okay, you know what? I am going to go find my cheese. I'm just not going to sit here. What's that thing that everybody say? Nobody's coming to save you. Mel Robbins, she had built a big thing about that. Nobody's coming to save you, and it's like, okay, I need to go find my cheese. I need to go find what I'm looking for.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. All right. So you we talked about how you got into real estate, right? Now, when was that transition? You always wanted to be a teacher. So when was that transition to for you to say, hey, you know what? I want to be a coach. I want to, focus on the content strategy side of things to help other agents build their business.
Yes, I think if I were in college when TikTok and Instagram Reels and all of that kind of stuff existed, my friends would have been exhausted with me because they would have been in everything all the time. It's just so much fun to create. Funny enough, though, when I was in college, I had an internship with a youth group, and the thing that was always so big back in the early 2010s was video, lip dubs, doing things, but like with a camera, not like with
Yeah.
your phone. And so those 2-3 years, I mean, I was always on camera doing something. We were trying to create some sort of interesting something to get teenagers excited and on camera, or engaged in what it is that we were doing. And I find it so interesting that that sort of built the foundation for what I started doing when I got into the industry. I got my license like 2 weeks before they shut testing centers down for COVID.
Wow.
Um, you could not network in person. And I'm in a small town that I had moved to like not even a year prior. And I didn't want to go back to Murfreesboro to sell real estate. It was an hour away. I wanted to be with my kids. I wanted to be with my family. I'd, have this radius that I'll serve within reason. And then I'll refer it out from there. So I had to grow my business in Tullahoma so that I could, do what I wanted here. So in order for me to do that, because networking in person was not an option, I had
Mhm.
to be online. Like I had to be willing to put my face on camera and share. And it wasn't, this insecurity of being on camera itself. It was the insecurity of how other people would perceive what I was
Mm.
doing. But within that first year, I had gotten my license from March until December. I did 12 transactions within that first calendar year. And I definitely credit that to the social media work that I had put in.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you said that I think a lot of people deal with. And you said it wasn't you doing the content, it was what people thought of you doing the content, right? And we just had Jay Shetty. He was at our conference. He was one of the keynote speakers. And his book that I'm currently reading, Thinking Like a Monk, he said that it is not what people think of us, it is what we think people think of us. And that was a big thing of like you almost stopped something that you're passionate about or what you were, you wanted to do because of the perception that you thought other people will have of
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And a lot of people struggle with that. Honestly, it's like, what will this person think of me if I do this? And that's a big thing that we have to stop doing because we can miss so many blessings. We can miss so many opportunities if we care about what we think other people think.
Yes. There was a wonderful sermon I listened to one time, and I'm in Tennessee, so we have the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
Cheer or don't cheer. It's a tough time to be a Tennessee Titan. Hopefully next year we do better. But it was great because they were talking about that exact thing. And in the middle of the sermon, he says, "The Titans aren't talking about you in their huddle." And I about lost it. I'm partly out of like, man, that hit home and I wanted to cry, but then also just laughing because the idea of the Tennessee Titans during a football game huddling together and talking about me of all people, which I mean, I don't know, maybe they did not do great. But to talk about me of all people in that huddle just was so absurd that I think it put into perspective like, no, I will tell myself consistently if I feel like if I have the perception that I'm being judged, it's the Titans aren't talking about me in their huddle every single time.
Yeah. I like that because it makes me think about it too. Now, let me say this: there are everybody do have some form of hater
Oh,
in
there's
their world. There are yet. I think it's an ego thing for a lot of us that when we think that more people are talking or thinking about us than it actually is, I think that's more of a us thing than the actual people.
Yes. Well, and really, like for me, again, stay-at-home mom who finally broke out and decided to get a job and do some things to help change her family's life. It felt little. Like I felt like this little micro person. And in this small community, if one or two people are saying something negative or sharing your posts in a way saying like, "Oh, she's so tacky," which is screenshotable truth that happened, it does kind of eat at you. But I look at myself today 6 years later, and I mean, I think people are screenshotting and sharing for very different reasons today.
Mhm.
And even if the haters are still hating at this point, what has grown is so much bigger than I think what any of us would have expected. And there's not a whole lot I love more than having a chip on my shoulder to motivate me.
That's one of those things where we're drawn together too because we're the same with that. Was like perfect. Got that little chip now because I get that right now in a lot of things that I'm doing of that little motivation, like perfect. Yet one thing we know is that the people that are doing better than us aren't hating on us. It's the people that they don't have the balls, so to say. They don't have it in them for them to take chances, go from being a stay-at-home mom to like, okay, I am fin to go out there and I'm finna do this for me and my family. some people, they're envious of that, and instead of them looking in the mirror and reflecting on changes they need to make, they project it on other people and say, "Oh, that's tacky," or "That's this and that," because they're scared to, spread their wings and go out and do the thing. Yeah.
Just to open the camera and be on screen. And I mean, if you look back, which I don't suggest you do, like I was so very postpartum. I'll look back on some of those and I'm like, my hair, I was missing so much hair because it was just had not grown back yet. I was vitamin D deficient. It was before I had my LASIK eye surgery. I mean, it was a rough time to be Rachel Ferrell. And at the same time, I knew if I don't do this thing, then there will not be a time where I get to say, hey, I have all my hair back.
Yeah. Now, but that is the thing, though, that a lot of people like to see the beginning of where things started from because they're able to see the growth. And once they're able to see the growth, they get inspired to say, "Okay, I just have to start."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There's some people that I follow and I look to for motivation, and I purposely go back and look at a lot of their beginning things and be like, "Okay, you just have to keep going."
Yes.
They kept going. They got better. They got better at being on camera. They got better at what they was talking about. They got better at doing, like, it's just time on task over time. Like we teach
Yes.
people that you end up getting better. And again, for the people that look to you as motivation, for them to go back and see where you started from to where you are now, that is very motivational to people because they're like, okay, I just have to go. It doesn't have to be a perfect time to start. I just have to start, and
Yes.
things will start getting better as we go.
I need to pull back. I'll go back and look and see and do some screenshots. I remember at the beginning it was like my grandmas. My grandmas were following, my brother was following me, and it was just a very small circle. So when you were talking to the camera, it was like, all right, the stories are going to go away in 24 hours. The worst that could happen is my grandma sees it. And apparently my grandma called my brother and was like, is this normal for somebody to share this much information online about stuff? Like, is she doing? And again, I mean, that was nearly 10 years ago now. And I remember Justin calling me and saying, I told her it was normal. I was like, good, I'm glad. She loves it now, but it was just funny. It was a tight circle at first.
Yeah, everything has a beginning. Nobody started as an amazing
Mm-mm.
speaker or amazing podcast. I know my first episode was horrible, and I'm still working as I'm going because it's again 1% better every day, one
Yes.
percent better every video you post, 1% better every time you speak, and it just helps you start getting those reps under you, and then now you are doing it a lot better, and people are looking to you for motivation.
Yes, I find that so interesting. What's funny right now is that after leaving family reunion, I have this new strategy. I have this new goal. I have a challenge. Hold on. I'll show you because I have it right here. My new 66-day challenge is to post on YouTube one time every single day. I told myself in 2025 that that was going to be the year of YouTube. And guess who did not post on YouTube? It was me. I didn't do it. And so I went to family reunion this time and I'm about to derail, but I'm not going to. I need to go back and talk about Chat GPT and family reunion. And I went to a couple of classes that talked about motivation and focus and trying to, what's the one thing I could do today that's going to
Yeah.
make a difference in my business? And right now, like I'm good at Instagram. TikTok's my playground. Like I feel like those are things that I have mastered enough, but there's always this next wave, this next piece that is coming. And I don't ever want to be on the back end of the wave saying, oh, I missed it. So this year I have to do YouTube. And while I don't think I'll do a YouTube video every single day for the rest of my life, for the next 66 days, 5-minute minimum on YouTube saying something. So I'm 5 days in and I haven't bailed yet, which is kind of a big deal. But I
Yeah.
mean, I think it also gives me that practice and the experience again of this is new. This is something that I'm not used to. This is something that I'm having to purposefully say over and over again. The Titans aren't talking about me in their huddle. There might not be a lot of people watching me now, but it
Mhm.
would be a disservice to somebody for not sharing the thoughts that I
Yeah.
have today now. Um, and having to work through that insecurity again is a really interesting practice.
It goes back though to one of those things of where nobody's probably watching now, but all it takes is that one video that catches everybody's attention, and now they're all going back looking at to previous videos.
Yes. And you know what? It's going to be over something silly. So,
Oh, of course, always,
it,
always.
yes, my most popular Instagram story ever was about Harry Potter 4, about how the movie was garbage. It was the worst movie, and how the book was phenomenal. And it opened up so many conversations. That needs to be my next 5-minute YouTube video,
Yeah.
is a
And
comparison
as
past.
and as a huge Harry Potter fan, so people that know me know how big of a Harry Potter fan I am. That would be something that I would be tuning into watching because again, everybody has their thing that they're into that they like. And now you're making yourself more relatable because people are like, oh shit, I like Harry Potter too. You know what? You are 100% right. The movie is not book accurate. That it kind of was shit, and the book I just got to lean back on the book, right?
Yes.
So that makes me want to transition to the next
Yes.
part of this is content with a purpose, not just not just noise. What for you? What is your definition of the difference between posting and positioning what it is that you're doing?
Absolutely. So when I first got into the business, I mean, some of it was because real estate is sort of an easy it's an easy way to still be home with my kids and also have a job. Now, I say easy in the sense that on paper it sounds like an easy thing to do, have kids at home and work in real estate. But I think ultimately the reason why I got into real estate is because we needed to move out of the city. We were in like a secondary market, prices had skyrocketed. We were outpriced in our hometowns, and we had to move away. And so when we moved, we got what we wanted. I had an acre of land. I had an all brick home, and I had the space that I wanted inside of it. And the monthly mortgage payment wasn't killing us. And that was revolutionary in our world, considering were living negative paycheck to paycheck up until that moment. So the reason I got into the business was to help people live outside of their mortgage by buying homes they could afford so they could use the rest of their resources to live the life of their dreams. And that was the lens in which I posted every single time. It was, this is what affordability looks like. It might stink to move an hour away from your mom, but I promise if she loves you, she will show up. And she shows up all the time, and I drive back to her all the time. But there were things that we had to do, sacrifices that we had to make in order for us to be able to feel that financial security. And it would not have happened unless we had dug into our real estate, what that portion of our wealth looks like. And I felt like that was a message that needed to be shared. I mean, so much of us want to stay in our hometowns or adjacent to. We want to feel that comfort of being there, but I don't want to be uncomfortable while I'm there. So that was the lens in which I posted. It wasn't just listed.
So what I'm hearing you say is content isn't about going viral. It's about being valuable.
Absolutely.
It's about showing some form of value. It's about what we know is, and our especially in our business and just in life in general, we're not the only ones that deal with certain circumstances and situations. So by you sharing that, there was somebody else that was like, oh damn, okay, that's kind of like the same thing I'm going through, and these are the steps, these are the things that I can do to get out of that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and I think is being able to connect with somebody over that, even if affordability wasn't their issue. I think that it was something that resonated with people just in general. There's probably somebody in your life that is struggling with affordability, that has to change their expectations, or who doesn't realize that they can step into real estate and make that move. And they needed to connect. When you think of like these big influencers, like I have a handful that I follow, and I wouldn't call them like big influencers. They don't have millions of people that follow them. There's maybe, a measly 60 to 70,000. But they're micro influencers.
Yeah.
And I would buy every pair of shoes that one of these women suggests, because I feel like I can connect with her. I mean, she's very much, we wear the same size clothes. Whereas if I look at Taylor Swift and Taylor Swift buys something new, I'm probably not going to go out and buy it nearly as much. So whenever I looked at it through the lens of I can be my own influencer of sorts in my community without having that huge, following, it changed my perspective on how to share. I'm not trying to share to the masses. I'm trying to share to me.
So that pretty much is one of those things of like you are showing up as yourself, and instead of showing up as what you think people want to hear or trying to please everybody, right? It's like, no, this is me. And that was one of the key things from family reunion is authenticity, like showing up as yourself, and you took it to where I am going to be authentically me in my online space. And the people like me, the people that are like me are going to be the people that like me. And the people that aren't like me, they may not like me. They may, no big deal, but this is the space I want to go through.
Yes. Yes,
Good.
absolutely.
Now, is it hard? Now, this is something I struggle with. So I want to know your take on it. The balancing vulnerability and professionalism, or
Oh,
balancing being 100% you. Because, for me, I curse. I have no problem with cursing, or I am a little bit more aggressive. I actually just got into, I don't want to call it an argument, but a situation with a friend of mine to where they're like, "Hey, you was a little aggressive." I'm like, "Well, that's just how I am. Like when I'm talking, I have an aggressive tone. So for you, how do you balance or counterbalance that when you're posting?"
I think when I try to be more zipped up and professional, I get less engagement. And I think that when I started following the analytics and seeing like people want to see what I'm doing with my kids, people want to feel like they're a part of my life. That was when I started loosening up a little bit more. There are definitely pieces and parts of my world that I don't share online. And I think that's a myth that a lot of people have whenever they're getting online and sharing. Just because you're sharing yourself, your personality, being vulnerable doesn't mean that you have to share 100% of of that part of you. But I think that, people just want to know that you're real, and you can do that. You can do that really well online. They just want to know you're real.
So I am going to butcher this, but Antoinette Perez, she was my very first guest on here, and she said something along the lines of being authentic doesn't mean you have to be 100% accessible. So pretty much, you being authentic, you being real, doesn't mean you have to make your whole life accessible to
Right.
everybody. It's just
Yes.
like being authentic to your beliefs and the things you decide you want to share. You can share that, but other than that, it's just being you as the person you are.
Yes, I love it. I completely agree. I love her. Personality and professionalism can exist at the same time. And now, like, I won't say that I don't use some words sometimes, but I do know that my ideal follower, my ideal person doesn't. And if I do use words online that are not Southern appropriate, then I could end up losing some of my audience. So I try and take care. There are things that I say, feel, and do that are behind the scenes that I don't ever put online.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just a part of, protecting myself as a person. Allowing myself to have a personality outside of the internet too is really important. It kind of creates that balance between the two people.
And, you know, as you can already tell by this podcast, there is profanity on
Ah,
here.
say what you want to
And
say. You're fine.
and there's only been one or two episodes where I did not curse, and it was just because of the guest. And I'm like, I'm gonna keep it there, but everything else, it is what it is.
Oh
But
yeah.
so I want to talk about that. Your boy mom,
Mhm.
and you do homeschooling. What was the decision for you all to around that? Making that the choice that you were gonna do.
Yes. Okay. So being a boy mom is wild. It's wild. And my firstborn is he is so put together. He is my father in a 10-year-old boy. And I fought that man for 18 years, and now I get to do it again, but I'm in charge this time. So it feels really good to be on this side of the equation. And then my youngest is a little bit more feral, and that's okay. They're just quite the pair. As far as homeschooling goes, we had considered homeschooling before the boys were born, and partly it's because of where we were living. We were still close to my hometown, but we were in the outskirts, and there were some questions about school system, and we thought, well, if we're out here, we might as well just homeschool. When we moved over to Tullahoma, it was like, Tullahoma City schools are great, and I stand by that today. Even as we're homeschooling, Tullahoma City schools is a fantastic school system. Both of my boys have unique challenges that they have to work through, and we would not have discovered them if we hadn't have pulled them home. My oldest was in public school. There were just some challenges that we were having in math and with his relationship with his teacher, and the response was more, I wouldn't say more discipline, but it was Mom, we need you to step in to tell him that he needs to pay attention. And it just didn't feel right, because for 2 years it just wasn't that way. So after a challenging conversation, we decided to pull him. I had no plan other than, this is not where he needs to be, and I think that I can solve this. I had talked to somebody that I respect greatly in the homeschool community, and she was like, when you pull him, you don't need to do school. Like, give it 3 to 4 weeks so that he can get used to being home, and so that you can establish, emotions and relationship again, and then you can dive into it. But ultimately, it was what led us to understanding dyscalculia, which is dyslexia, but with math. And then my youngest has a different kind of dyslexia. It's called orthographic dyslexia. And what's funny is that even the educators that I brought it up to, they're like, I don't know what that is, because it's just a unique form of dyslexia. So we have the ability to help them at home in ways that they would not be able to be helped in the school system. And what's beautiful is that we actually have multiple neighbors who all homeschool. So, I mean, for socialization, that is truly not. And honestly, it's the opposite, where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna need you to stop socializing and come home. So that was why we chose to homeschool. The job that I have allows us to be a little bit flexible. My husband works at a hospital 3 days a week, so he teaches some days, but could not do this without him. He teaches several days a week. I teach several days a week, and that's how we make homeschool happen.
Okay, and that was going to be my follow-up question to that is, how does that schedule work, like structured for you? But you all have it down like, okay, you have these days, I have this day. And
Yes.
again, by you, being in real estate, you're able to build your schedule around the schedule of the boys in school.
Yes. Now, interesting enough, I'm like going on this one. You opened up a Pandora's box. Interestingly enough, whenever I was at family reunion, I went to a panel, and Tiffany Fikes, who is out of the Nashville office, can't believe I hadn't met her. She's like literally in my group of market centers. She homeschooled her children, and she and I connected afterwards, and she told me how she did it, and she gave a lot of the responsibility to the kids. Of course, ultimately their education is my responsibility, but the programs that we've selected, I mean, I am not a morning basket homeschool mom. If you want to be the homeschool mom that does everything all the time, you can't work from home and also be a homeschool mom. I like to call it tech school. Like, we're the tech school of homeschooling. But what Tiffany did was give her kids autonomy and say, hey, you're going to have to take some responsibility for this. And I sat the kids down as soon as I got back from family reunion and said, boys, mommy works. Like, I have to be on so that I can make sure that this happens for you, that we can go on the cruise and we can do the thing and enjoy our life. And if I don't have that time, then, we're going to have to change some things. You know what you have to do. Like, the work is self-led. I need you to take some responsibility over this. I cannot babysit you all day whenever it comes to your schoolwork. And I gave them the incentive, and I told them you don't earn TV, you don't earn the dessert if you don't do it. The next day, what would have taken 4 hours for my 10-year-old was done in an hour and a half. I could cry. Oh man, he came in and he was like, Mom, can you check my work? And I was like, what do you mean? And he handed it to me, and it was done. And I was like, just handing him that responsibility just
Yeah.
empowered him to be able to complete. I let him play outside the rest of the day. I was like, do you want chocolate? Do you want the TV? You can have it all. Just do it again.
Yeah. And that's one of those things too of giving kids some independence. They say, hey, you are responsible for having this done. Like
Yes.
this is your responsibility. And just like as an adult, like you work and you make money, you can reward yourself with taking this trip and doing that. The same thing for you. You do what you're supposed to do. Go outside to play. Here's some candy. Here's those things. So setting them up to know, like, hey, this is how the real world works. Like, you want something, you want that fancy car, or you want those new shoes. The only way you can get those things is if you do what you're supposed to do to work to get it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. And how much do you think you being an entrepreneur, you being a business owner, how much do you think that plays a part in, what your kids are learning from that aspect?
So that is a huge piece of why I did it. And what's interesting is that when the boys were little was when we struggled the most financially and personally, and they don't remember it.
Yeah.
Um, Not nearly, the way that they remember what we do today. And so trying to ensure that they don't lose sight of that is important to me. Just making sure that they understand that, when we go and spend $150 at the store, daddy had to work, a number of
Yeah.
hours in order to make that happen. And to say, was this item worth 2 hours of dad's time, 3 hours of dad's time? And I think it helps put into perspective like what it takes to get to that point. But being an entrepreneur gives the boys an opportunity to like buy in and see
Yeah.
what I do every day.
And that's one of the things that I do with my daughter where I have this thing to where I would never tell her no because you can't afford it. It's no, and if you want it, here's what you need to do. Your
Yeah.
grades need to be good. You have to make sure when you get home from school, your lunchbox is cleaned out and it's ready to go for the next day. Like you
Yes.
do these things, then you can earn that. And I think that's the thing we instill into our kids of not having them say like, "Oh, well, we can't afford this." Like, no, we can afford it. We just have to work to get it. So here's what dad is going to do to work to get that, and here's what you're going to do to work to get that, and then
Yes.
instills that that mindset in them like I can get anything I want. I just have to work and do these things to get there.
Yes. If you can be trusted with little, you can be trusted with a lot. And if you can't trust them with a little bit, then I don't know. Long term, it would be really hard.
Yeah. Now, your mom,
Mhm.
your wife, you're a coach, you're a realtor, you are a speaker. How are you avoiding burnout? How are you counterbalancing? I'm glad you laughed because that means we're gonna get the real answer. We're gonna get the real answer.
Oh,
If
man.
if you're not handling it, yeah, that's fine. But like, what? How are you dealing with that?
Yes. Okay. So you caught me at just the perfect time to ask that question. The answer is that I haven't. I mean, I really haven't
Right.
handled it well. And it's
Yeah.
because I have so many dreams. And if you look at any personality assessment for me, I'm a big dreamer. I love ideas. I love, creating something and galvanizing and bringing people in, getting it to the finish line. A little bit of a different story.
Yeah.
I love the feeling of being finished at the finish line, but I don't like the laundry tasks
Yeah.
to get us to that finish line. So I have struggled a little bit with this, like, if I want to teach and train, what's the pathway to get there? Do I need all of the certifications and all of the things? Do I have to read all of the books to be able to do that? Same thing with real estate. If I have a new idea, I chase it. And I have struggled with intentionally saying, no, I will not chase that today, because I don't want to say no. So family reunion was a little bit of a showstopper for me. Okay, back to the Chat GPT family reunion. I think you're going to
Yeah.
find this interesting. So I was not sure what classes I wanted to attend. I facilitated that one class and it was on social media, and we had social media con all day that Sunday. And I wanted to pick more social media classes because that's what I love to do and see. So I uploaded it to ChatGPT. I uploaded all of the classes. And I said, these are the classes I want to go to. And she told me Rachel, you already know about social media. You don't need to go to those classes. You need to go to systems and prioritizing classes. She picked my classes for me, and Jesse, I cried in every one. It was so good. I mean, it was all about leverage and scaling. And when you're fuzzy on what you want, if you leverage, you're just going to scale fuzzy. And that's what I feel is happening is that I'm spending money on this leverage, but it still doesn't feel clear. So that's my thing right now. Yeah.
Well, so it's two things I want to touch on, and here's Coach Coleman hat coming on and not interviewer, right? The first part about it, well, so I'll go to the last part first of, what chat told you to do, and that is a trap that a lot of people get put in. They fall into. They already know the things, they're just not doing it.
Mhm.
So they spend their time going to the breakouts and the classes of stuff they already know,
Mhm.
and they're just not doing it,
Yes.
right? Instead of saying, hey, I want to get to here, I'm currently here. What are the classes I need to take that will give me ideas, that will give me steps to be able to get to that next level? And that's kind of like how that broke down for you. Yet the 66-day challenge.
I
Exactly.
know YouTube. I didn't have to go to a YouTube class. I needed to go here so that you
Yep.
could say one thing every day and commit to it.
Yep. You needed to go to the action part about it.
Mhm.
Yet people know a lot of stuff, yet they keep going to all the classes around the stuff they already know. Where in one aspect of it, yes, it should, give you a good sense of feeling because like, oh, I know this. But on the other hand, it should be like, damn, I know this and I'm still not doing it. And yet I keep getting confirmation of the stuff that I know. I just need to get into action to do it. So for you all that's listening, a lot of times you don't need to learn nothing you new. You need to do the things that you already learned. Right.
Yes.
Now, the other part of that for you is, the saying no. And it's where you just want to go, go, go. It's one of those things where you have a clear vision, you have a clear goal. Does these things help get you closer to that vision and goal you have? If the answer is no, then you say no to it. If the answer is, hey, you know what, Jesse, actually, if I do A, B, and C, that will get me closer to this. So that's the reason why I want to do it. Then it's like, okay, got it. Yet if these things do not get you closer to where you're trying to get to, then you say 100% no to those things.
Yeah. It's hard. Well, and you have the whole Pareto's principle, the 80-20, 20% of the work that you do accounts for 80% of the results you get. But, there's still an 80% that has to be done. And as a mom and as a wife and as a business owner, you look at that and you say 80%, like what am I supposed to do with that? And there was a time where I didn't have the ability to leverage it. And now looking at it, it's saying, is this in the top three things? Is this something I can hand off to somebody else? And
Yep.
whenever I reframed the kids' education part of it and saying, JD, you have responsibility over this piece, that was leverage that I've had for a very long time that I wasn't utilizing. And so
Yeah.
just reimagining what leverage looked like and what my to-do list actually looked like was super helpful there.
Yeah. Now we just talked about all the hats you wear, and there's a lot of moms, there's a lot of wives, there's a lot of um, women in business that are listening. How could you help them? What are some things you could share to them that where they're having to overcome that imposter syndrome or that feeling of, oh, maybe I'm letting my family down? Like, what are some words of advice you can share to them?
Yes. So my kids are wonderful, and I love them. There was a period of time where they were like number one in my life, and that just can't be the case. It's
Yeah.
it's God, it's my husband, it's my kids. And whenever I put those things in order is when things go well. There's 1 year of my life that I wish I could just erase for eternity because I had the order of operations in not the
Mm.
right order. And whenever we sat down and looked at it and decided this is it, I have to protect my time. I have to protect who I surround myself with. I have to protect the way that I view what I'm doing. Am I working because I'm passionate about teaching and training and that is the focus of my life? Or am I teaching and training so that I can help build a platform to build my family up? And if the
Mhm.
teaching and training overtakes what's happening in my family, then I have to pause. There has to be like a foot on brake. Like that is not a moment that you say, well, let's slow down for a little bit and, take a little bit of a detour. That's like a hard stop, like emergency brake on, be with your family, do the thing. We talk about it in business planning clinic where you plan your life around your vacations. And
Yeah.
even if you can't afford a vacation, you need to set time aside and say, this is going to be a week of staycation. This is the
Yeah.
week I'm going to spend at home with my family doing these things. And I will tell you, it's hard. It's hard. And it feels cliche to say that it's hard, but it just is, it's the truth. And as your kids get older, it doesn't get easier. But the time is going to pass anyway. And I can either make the choice to focus on my kids and let my work be the platform for that, or I can be a busybody and work all the time and then they're going to turn 18 and have thoughts and feelings. And I don't want that to happen.
Now, so that is a perfect segue to, the question I want to ask is, what do you want the boys to remember? The boys get 18, they become 21, they become grown men, they're having their families. What do you want them to remember the most?
I think what's challenging here is that you have mom guilt, you have this back and forth of I have to work. I have to. It's a requirement. I have to work in order for us to be able to sustainably live the life that we've been living. I have to work. And so, how can I do that and still have, the relationship with the boys and have them feel like I wasn't working all the time? I have to let go of the fact that I have to work. They have to
Mm.
see that hard work is a part of what made us be able to do what we're doing. We don't just get to go on a cruise because the cruise line said, "Hey, let's go." It's
Yeah.
because mom spent time doing something to make that happen. Dad spent time doing something to make that happen. I feel like there's always going to be something when kids grow up that you feel like you could have done differently. I mean, I think just as a millennial, we all go to bed with an ounce of guilt that we did something wrong or we could have done something better. The first several years of the boys' lives, I struggled with that a lot. And I think partly it was postpartum, having to
Mhm.
work through that. And some of it was just self-awareness, like coming into who I am as a person. I had the kids young, I was in my 20s when the
Yeah.
first one was I was 25 when JD was born. Both of my boys were born before I turned 30, and I don't think my brain was fully developed at
Yeah.
that point. So every night when they go to bed, it was, what could I have done differently? And I think that they started adopting that mentality when my oldest started saying, I'd ask him, what was your favorite part of today? And then he would go on a tangent about the things that he didn't do well, was when I realized, like, you're doing that to yourself. So I
Mhm.
think when they leave and when they go into their homes with my future daughter-in-laws that we're going to have a great relationship with, it's
Yeah.
going to be awesome. Um, I want them to have experienced grace. I want them to know that hard work gets you where you want to be, but that in order to have a fulfilling life, you have to have balance. That work is not everything, and grace is big.
All right, so Rachel, I always ask all of my guests this question when we get ready to wrap up. So of course I'm going to ask you. So I always ask my guests, if there's one thing you can tell younger you, whatever part of your life where you needed it the most, what would be that thing you would tell younger you right now?
Oh man, that's a tough one, and it's another one that I think I've sort of run up against lately. It's just kind of
Yeah.
been the brick wall of my 35th year. I was the girl that talked a lot. I was always the one that was saying too much, that was being too loud, that had the report card written that she was um, you know, she's very smart, but she won't shut up,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, it was, I think, a common thing in the 90s. After
Yeah.
having kids was when I was finally diagnosed with ADHD. Hello. Like, if somebody could have pointed that out when I was, 11, I think it would have changed a lot of things about who I am. But I did a lot of changing. I mean, there was a lot of tempering who I was and the spark behind it for several years. And I think that, it caused me to project that uncertainty about myself into the people that I was surrounding myself with, where I would say, you don't like me very much, do you? And it really came from that root of, I am too much. I am too much. I am too much. I wish I could sit her down and just say, you're not. Maybe go talk to a doctor about the ADHD, because I think it'll probably change your life.
Yeah.
But I think, just kind of cutting the insecurity off from the root would have been really lovely. I had wonderful people in my life too. Like, I did not have a sad or a bad upbringing. It's just,
Yeah.
at this point, it's easier having a son with ADHD, knowing that kids like him, they get reprimanded 20,000 times more than their peers because of the energy and what's being said. It just has changed the way that I talk to him and discipline him. I think I wish I could have done that for myself.
I love that. And everybody that's listening, as we're coming up to the end, I hope you took something from this episode. Again, like I always say, take something, if it's just one thing, implement to what it is you're doing, or changing how you're thinking, changing how you are operating. That is the most important thing that you can do. That's why we do this episode. Rachel, I am honored and grateful that you took time out of your day to spend with me. I love watching your journey. I love seeing your growth. I'm excited for the next levels and the next things that you are about to accomplish. And I just love you, and I'm in your corner. I'm always going to be in your corner. Anything you ever need from me, you already know I got you.
You do. I love getting on Zoom calls, like with groups, and seeing you in it, because you'll ask me, like, are you in your closet? I'm like, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm in my closet right now.
You
I
have
love
the
you.
best backdrop ever. The best backdrop ever is the closet.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me on here. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And everybody, thanks for checking into another episode of Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast, where we help you tap into your full potential. I'll see you next week. Peace.
Fresh Production.